there was a lot written 30 years ago, and really in hindsight, it hasn't aged well about your time with the Sonics. You were among the first athletes that I know to openly talk about mental health and the importance of it. It was rare for an athlete to do what you did at the time. People didn't really understand, and you're around this sport now. We've seen professional basketball players like Kevin Love in particular talk about the importance of mental health. How do you think those conversations have changed over time?
The conversations have become much more acceptable because other players, since I believe that was in '93 or '94 that happened with me, that so many more players have come out and talked about mental health, talked about the importance of it, and letting other people know that just because we dribble a basketball, athletes make tons of money, and that it still isn't all sunshine and rainbows. You do at times have things that you have to deal with in life, just like a regular person. In my situation in Seattle, and I've never told the story before, I ever even talked about it. It's part of the reason why, I was open to doing your podcast here, is I used to suffer from cluster headaches, okay? I suffered from cluster headaches from the time I was 10 years old to up until my last year in the NBA, okay? What I used to go through is it would be seasonal. So I would go through an episode in the fall, an episode in the winter, an episode in the spring, maybe an episode in the summer. But during the episodes, I would have 6 to 7 headaches a day. These headaches are unbearable, like migraines, okay? At that time, when I did have to take the break, I remember, because my first year I lived in Bellevue, and then after my first year I moved to downtown Seattle to an apartment. So I was at my apartment, and I used to take this shot called Imitrex. And what Imitrex is it's a shot that you put in your arm to stop the headache right away. Okay, you're only supposed to take 2 a day. My episodes were so bad, I was taking 6 to 7 of those shots every day to try to make it go away. Okay, the headaches would not stop. They were even worse when I went to sleep and woke up. So during a 3-day span, I did not go to sleep because the headache persisted for 3 days. I was tired of shooting myself in the arm with the shot because it wasn't working anymore. And I was totally exhausted. I remember going to a game, and we were playing in Tacoma back then. This was at the Tacoma Dome. I remember driving to the game, almost falling asleep in the car because I hadn't slept in 3 days. So I eventually called the NBA Players Association and told them what a problem I was having. And they told me, look, you need to take a break right now. And, I still didn't think it was depression or anything like that. I just thought that I was going through one of my cluster headache episodes. But and I still rejected that I was depressed for a long time. That's part of us as men. We're not supposed to be depressed. We're supposed to be strong enough to take anything on. That's what frame of mind I was in. Okay, so I wouldn't accept the depression part of it. Years later, I did, but because insomnia can be a byproduct of depression. And so the NBA actually had the NBA's head of the medical staff happened to be in Seattle at that time. So he asked me to come and meet with him. I went and met with him, and he said, listen, I'm recommending right now that you stop playing for a while, at least until we can get these headaches under control and until you can get some rest. If you continue on, this is going to be dangerous for you. So that's when we announced it. And that's the true story. That's what happened. And, I was able to get some rest. And I think I came back maybe a week and a half later. Headaches were still there, but I was able to sleep. and that's what enabled me to come back and play.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, Kendall. Do you think that really anybody around you at the time had any idea of what you were going through?
No, the trainer did. He knew that I was going through the episodes with the headaches, but nobody else did. And it was tough. I'll tell you, I've been suffering from that for my whole life, ever since I was 10 years old. But in that particular time in Seattle, it was the worst. And it got to a point where my head was hurting so bad that I wanted to just jump off the balcony, to end the pain that I couldn't get rid of, especially after using all of the Imitrex shots and things like that, and they wouldn't work anymore. So.
How much did you pay attention to what people were writing at the time? Because it was like, well, Kendall Gill has disappeared from the team for one reason or another, and you're still you're fighting this on your own battle.
Well, thank God I've got parents. My parents are still living, still here now. They still guide me even to this day. I'm 54 years old now, but I didn't pay. My mom and dad came back because I came home to Chicago for a couple of days to get rest and see some doctors and everything about my head and everything. Once we took care of that, my parents flew back to Seattle with me. They would not let me read any newspapers. They would not let me, really watch the news or anything. They stayed with me, and that's how I got through it. I assume that all of the reports were not good, but. I was willing to take the heat because I had to take care of myself, and I did that, and I'm glad that I did, because had I not taken that step, who knows what would have happened.
How are you doing with it today? I mean, are you able to manage it? Have the?
Oh, I don't have them anymore.
Yeah.
So what happened is that we finally found a protocol that broke the cycle of the headaches. And I've been doing that protocol ever since. Do I get one every once in a while? I may get one, as opposed to hundreds of headaches a year. I probably get one or two now a year. So thank God for science and technology that I don't have to suffer like I did throughout my career.
Have you reached out to other athletes who may have experienced the same thing? I mean, we're talking about the idea of people openly talking about this and the connection with mental health. What you're saying is it affected your physical health too. I mean, have you had a chance to talk to other athletes and try and help them find the light?
I've talked to a couple that reached out to me, about the situation that I went through, and I told them that, listen, you got to take care of yourself first. You can't listen to everybody else. There's a lot of pressures on you as a professional athlete. To perform, one, because you're getting paid a lot of money. You have that pressure. You have the pressure of the fans to perform. You have the pressure of the coach to perform as well, because the coach has to keep his job as well. And you can't worry about those pressures when it comes to your life. And, that's what I did. A lot of people would ask me, well, Kendall, he would walk around and, sometimes he would not want to be engaged in team activities or with his teammates and everything. The reason why is because my head was pounding so hard. I just wanted it to stop, and I wasn't always like that, but during the seasons in which I would have these headaches, that's the way I would be. I would be withdrawn because I could not focus, or I could not talk to anybody else because I was going through so much pain, and I didn't want to tell anybody because, like I said, going back to being a strong, capable athlete, you don't want to admit any weakness at all. And that's the phase that I was in at that time. I didn't want to, I just wanted to deal with it by myself.
So it sounds like you felt too that you were misunderstood.
I knew I was misunderstood because they didn't know what I was going through at the time. Had they felt, look, I wouldn't wish cluster headaches on my worst enemy, because the pain is just unbearable. And, I didn't, because it happened to me so much, I didn't want my teammates or anybody else to think, oh, well, this kid is weak. He's always sick, something's wrong with him. So I decided to just deal with it myself until I couldn't deal with it anymore.
Do you feel like, I mean, you ended up getting traded back to Charlotte.
Yeah.
Do you think that helped change the situation? I mean, you said the headaches were worst in Seattle. After you got traded back to Charlotte, did the situation improve? Did the climate around you improve?
No, they didn't improve anymore. But it never got to the point where it did in Seattle when I couldn't sleep for 3 days in a row. It never got to that point anymore. I was able to manage it a lot better. They did not go completely away until I was in my 13th year, and then when I can tell you, I can be honest with you, I played half of my career with the migraine, so, but I was able to deal with it because I was able to manage it because I had dealt with it for years and years and years.